Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in the year 2021. We are on day 123, and we're looking at Psalms 106 and 107. So, starting off with Psalm 106, this has a lot to do with the concept, the idea of encouraging yourself in the Lord. So, the psalmist here is desperate for the hope that the Lord would rescue the nation from their enemy. It's just desperate, and they need to drum up, ignite, relight this hope that all is not lost. And you know how that feels. There are times for things that you face that you need to hold on to. You need to have that hope reunited because it's just been destroyed. Um, so he feeds this hope by remembering all the times Israel rebelled and was facing disaster, and yet Yahweh relented and rescued them. So just touching on just a few of those things in Psalm 106, verses 4 to 5, we have the request: "Remember me, Lord, with the favor you show your people. Visit me with your saving help, so I can experience the good things your chosen ones experience, so I can rejoice in the joy of your nation, so I can praise along with your possessions." So this is the request, like, just visit me with your saving help. Come rescue me. And then he goes through and he basically he lists here um, all the key points of rebellion in the history of Israel to this point. And they're not in chronological order. It may be a little confusing for you if you're expecting to be chronological, but it's not. Um, and so we have here in verse 7, our ancestors in Egypt didn't understand your wondrous works. They didn't remember how much faithful love you have. So they rebelled by the sea, at the Reed Sea. So that rebellion really stood out, especially after everything that the Lord had done with Egypt. Um, in verses 13 and 14, but how quickly they forgot uh, what he had done. They wouldn't wait for his advice. They were overcome with craving in the desert. They tested God in the wastelands. In verse 16, but then they were jealous of Moses in the camp, jealous too of Aaron, the Lord's Holy One. Verse 19 to 20, they made a calf at Horeb, bowing down to a metal idol. They traded their glorious God for an image of a bull that eats grass. And there's four more. I'm not going to list all of them, but there's four more times that the Psalms lists acts of rebellion, including the rejection of the promised land itself, where they refused to go in, and them joining in the idol worship of the surrounding nations, of the surrounding people, where they were not supposed to intermarry. They intermarried, where they were not supposed to worship the idols of these lands. That they were being cast out of the lands because of that, and yet they entered into it. Um, and then after each one of these, each one is listed here. Uh, he basically says the same thing. So that, just summing up, we won't list all those. We'll just sum up the Lord's rescue in all of these. Um, so we see here. So the Lord's anger burned against his people. He despised his own possession. So this is Yahweh's response to them. Okay, he's responding to these acts. So he burned in anger. Um, And then we see Yahweh's compassion here in verses 44 to 45. But God saw their distress when he heard their loud cries. God remembered his covenant for their sake. And because of how much faithful love he has, he changed his mind. And each one of these, this is how he responded. Just an incredible response. So then in Psalm 107, we get to see Yahweh as the corrector of our ways and our rescuer. And this is actually an incredible psalm that gives us four different stages or different ways of rebelling. So here are the examples of the people who needed rescue, but basically because of their own condition, what they did. So in verse 4 to 5, he talks about the wanderers, those who go out into the desert, into the dry place. So they've left the security of Yahweh, they've left His provision, and they've gone out and they try to do things on their own, and they end up in a desert situation. Um, then you've got these self-made, I don't know if self-made would be the right word, but let's use it, self-made prisoners sitting in darkness. So these are people who have really imprisoned themselves because they have removed, again, they have removed themselves from Yahweh, from His protection. They're lost in their own thinking. They've entered into darkness because they think they know more, their ways are better, and they end up in shackles in the dark is where they are. And and then you have in verses 17 to 18, these ones are referred to as the fools. They do what they want. Yeah, they're just going to do their own thing. They're not going to follow any instructions whatsoever. They're just going to do their own thing. They're acting very foolishly. And then the last one is the independent, self-made people that believe that they can rescue themselves, who believe that they can meet their own needs, they can take care of. They just so, and they're found in different locations. So you've got the desert and the prisons and on the sea. So this psalm deals with the fact that these people are rescued not because of themselves, but as a result of Yahweh's faithful love. That's what we get from this, because of His faithful love. So each of them are rescued from the rebellion. The wanderers are brought home, their thirst quenched, and hunger satisfied. So what they couldn't get on their own, they're brought home, and they receive from Yahweh, and their thirst and their hunger, it's all satisfied. The prisoners are brought out of the darkness, and their chains are shattered. The things that kept them imprisoned, it's just all removed, and they come into that liberating place of His faithful love. The fools are actually healed because they brought illness upon themselves, and they're rescued from that pit of destruction that fools can often find themselves in. And then the fourth one, the self-made people are rescued from the storms and led to safe harbor where they could not have rescued themselves. And this is what's amazing. In verse, I'm only using verse 28 as an example. You'll find it throughout the psalm, but it's the same thing that is said. The Lord left them in those conditions until this happened. So they cried out to the Lord in their distress. Each one of them find themselves in distress. They may have set out because they were going to find their own way. They may have set out because they were building their own life. May have set out because they were independent thinkers and so on. But they eventually they're in distress, and so they cried out to the Lord in their distress, and God brought them out safe from their desperate circumstances. God brought them out safe from their desperate circumstances. He rescued every one of them because they called out to Him. That should speak volumes to us. The psalmist also points out here something that's really important. Yahweh corrects, but He prefers to bless. He will correct. He will turn off the blessings. He will prevent things because he will not spoil us. He is not going to reinforce our bad behavior. So He can't bless the rebellious, but His desire is to bless. So we see here in verse 35 to 38, but God can also turn the desert into watery pools, thirsty ground into watery springs, where He settles the hungry. They even build a city and live there. They plant fields and vineyards and obtain a fruitful harvest. God blesses them and they become many. God won't even let their cattle diminish. So no matter where you find yourself in your rebellion, no matter what condition you find yourself in, He's the Redeemer. He's the Redeemer, and He can turn the desert into watery pools. He can bring life where there was death. It's his desire to do that. That's what he wants to do. But he can't do it until we call out for help, until we get to that place of desperation where we call out for help. And then he rushes in and he does this. So never think, if you ever find yourself in a place of rebellion and you're facing all these circumstances, don't think that dad wants to leave you there as a way of punishing you for what you did. No, what you're suffering is a result of the rebellion. What he wants to do is he wants to rush in and rescue you. He just needs you to call on him. That's an amazing message from the psalm. Absolutely amazing. Um, so then let's go back to the beginning, because then we can understand the beginning. Give thanks to the Lord because he is good, because his faithful love lasts forever. It outlasts our unfaithfulness. His faithful love lasts forever. It never runs out. It never ends. So no matter if you're 15 years old, or whether you're 40 years old, or whether you're 120 years old, his faithful love lasts forever. Whenever you turn, even if you've wasted 100 years of your life, doesn't matter. Whenever you turn to him, he is there to answer. That's what those who are redeemed by the Lord say, the ones God redeemed from the power of their enemies, the ones God gathered from various countries, from east and west and north and south. And that's what he loves to do. Give thanks to the Lord because he is good, because his faithful love lasts forever. It's amazing. It's amazing, guys. It's a wonderful psalm, and it's good to remember those things, because so many people would say that we are lost in a rebellion and we are condemned for all eternity. And Dad says, no, I want to rescue you. What you did is not as important as who I want you to be with me. That's the big takeaway. What we have done is not as important as his desire for us to be with him. And he took the move. He did what he needed to be done, so those things could be removed from us and we could enter into that relationship. So rejoice, people. Rejoice today. He is good. So you guys have a wonderful day. Love you all. Thanks for being part of this, and we'll see you tomorrow.